Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to the NLP 2018 Vote Thing Results video. Why don't we get right into the results, oh my god, and tell you that the winner of the vote was the Fall of the Samurai option, which was actually two options, which slightly complicates things, but we'll get into that in a second. It's slightly annoying, this voting system, because you can't actually see what total proportion of people who voted for a thing, because it doesn't factor in the multiple votes thing. So when it says 15% of people voted for Fall of the Samurai, it means 15% of votes were for it. So for all I know, it could have been 80% of people, it could have been like 20% of people. There's really no way of knowing, but what we do know is that it's the most commonly shared interest, or something like that. So we'll go with it in the spirit of democracy. I won't overrule it as I threatened to previously. So anyway, what this means is that we're actually now going to have a second miniature vote, because I was looking through the comments and there didn't seem to be any sort of like a major advantage for one side as to whether it should be a Britain campaign or the Josai campaign. Various people were just saying both, so little mini vote just to decide it now. So the link to that will be in the description. So basically we're doing two options. The Britain campaign will be in total Fall of the Samurai mod, which I don't know all that much about, other than it like adds stuff and buildings and things. It's probably like Darth mod. It might even be a modified version of Darth mod, I can't remember. And the idea behind this campaign will be to use the This is Total War challenge run rules, which is basically where you have to declare war on every other faction that you see as soon as you see them, because this campaign will be Britain just straight up invading Japan. The mod actually takes place before the Boshin War, so the Boshin War isn't going to be happening. It's just going to be everyone against Britain, and Britain will be very small to start with, but starts like further down the technology chain. Their units are better, at least their ranged units are better. They don't really have any melee units, so we'll be interested to see how that ends up playing out once things get to close quarters fighting. But anyway, so it'll just be like straight up imperialism. The British Empire has decided it's just going to have Japan, like it did to so many other places. It's probably just recently taken China or something. I don't really know the history, and just thought, well, you know, might as well take Japan as well while we're here. So that's what it's going to be like. So it's going to be about imperialism as a concept, but it's probably also going to end up leaking in that good old Last Samurai vibe, because as the British are there for longer and longer, they might actually start to realise that there is some merit to Japanese culture, and maybe they are a more formidable opponent than they previously assumed. That sort of thing. We'll see if we can get Tom Cruise in. Please, Mr. Cruise, do my narration. My poor voice. Anyway, and the other option is Josai. So this is the more normal option. So this will be in the Master of Strategy mod, so a slightly different mod. It changes the map up and adds lots more settlements. So it's like each thing that used to be one region previously is now 3 regions, because it's divided into towns, farms and ports. So it's almost like the Empire Total War style, where there are other settlements in each region outside of the main one that you can attack. Only in Empire Total War, those counted as field battles. In this mod, they are separate settlement assaults with their own special maps, so that's quite cool. And there's new units and building trees and tech, so it will be somewhat different from the normal Fall of the Samurai campaign, which I have already done, of course. Now, as Josai, you're on the Shogunate side, and it's possible that I could go Republican towards the end. Some people were requesting that for this option. The only problem with that is that I did already do that when I did my original Fall of the Samurai narrative Let's Play as Sue. I went with the Republican option. And the other thing is that narratively, Josai are like the really pro-Shogun faction. They're like their bodyguards, so they're like the least likely to betray them by saying, you know what, screw the Shogunate, let's just start our own country somewhere else. But maybe you could justify it narratively somehow, like they've just given up hope or something, but want to keep the spirit of the Shogun alive or something like that. And the other thing to remember is that if you don't go Republic in Fall of the Samurai, it's actually very easy, because you get all of the free allies. Like instead of Realm Divide, you have this sort of pick a side option somewhere in the late game, and if you pick a side that exists already and has all the other clans on it, then you'll just win, because suddenly you have all these free allies and you can just gang up on the AI, and it's usually a 50-50 fight, but one side has you on it, so you're definitely going to win. Anyway, well, we'll see about that, so that's just something to think about at some point during that campaign. And for this campaign, in terms of story, in order to make it not like exactly the same as the one I already did, I was thinking maybe it could be told really specifically from the point of view of the faction leader, because they do have a somewhat interesting leadership scenario, the Josai. They're like a clan that's only just been created, and it's led by these two teenagers. I think their dad basically creates the clan, or it's created because he became rich enough, and the shogun gave him this territory to be a daimyo over, and he dies, and his two teenage sons now have to lead the clan in this sudden war that's starting. So that could be an interesting angle, I think, to focus really specifically on like one or two guys and not really look at what the other generals are doing. They're just like retainers or something. I don't know. Some way of making it different is what I'm hoping for. I don't know exactly how it'll turn out. Anyway, so remember to vote for your favourite option. That's the main point to all this, now that you've got a tiny bit more information on what they might be like. And this vote will probably last only for this weekend, because I'm going to have to start doing preparations and getting things going on Monday most likely. And the first videos will probably appear in like 3 or 4 weeks. I can only apologise for the gap. I think, as I mentioned in the previous video, the previous voting video, normally I like prepare all the things I need to start in advance. So like I already have like footage and thumbnails, like an introduction video, like music choices and the narrative concept, like all the pictures I need like already prepared before I start like the work part of just doing the weekly cycle. But in this case I don't, and those things can take a while to put together, so we'll just see what happens with that. There'll be a delay, is all I'm really saying, so don't worry if there's a few Fridays with no videos on them. The other thing to remember about this series, and this is in the spirit of expectation management right here, is that this is my B series. Let me let you in on how the channel works. There's like a B series and an A series. Barbarian Masters is the A series. That means it gets like three to four work sessions per week in its cycle of production. And Fields of Mars only had 2, and that's what this is replacing. So I can't put as much work into it as I do into Barbarian Masters. Narika's Treasure, for reference, had 6, and my abridged campaigns are like 1 or less per week, so they're pretty good. And this is content is like 4 per 1 session, or whatever. So I want to make the series better than Fields of Mars, or have a slightly more like quality standard, more like Barbarian Masters, but then that might end up making the episodes shorter, or there being less narrative or something. Again, I don't know exactly how this is going to turn out, because I'm going to have to just try and do something and see what happens, because there's no real time to like experiment and find out how this is going to work. So I'm just putting that out there as a point of information, so do with that what you will. Now, since Empire, Total War and Mount & Blade came 2nd and 3rd in the vote, and relatively close as well, I'm going to try and perhaps tide some of you over with a few other videos in those games. I'm planning to do an abridged campaign as the Cherokee, the Native Americans in Empire, to replace the Lizardmen campaign, which will be ending this Monday. And I'm also going to do a new Mount & Blade adventure for This Is Content in the Red Wars mod, and that's probably going to replace the Dungeon Maker series, which has something like 5 episodes left, so that'll be like 2 weeks or something before a new Mount & Blade videos start coming out. So that's that. Maybe that will be of some interest to you if you voted for those 2nd or 3rd options and not the first one. The other thing to keep in mind is that, of course, as I did mention in the previous video, all of the other options that didn't come first are not off the table. They're still on the list, and as it stands, I'll probably go ahead and use the 13 colonies or early USA idea as the replacement for Barbarian Masters. Although, that said, I am going to have to reserve the right to do a 3 Kingdoms Total War NLP if it happens to be out, or is nearly out by then, because I'm just quite interested in doing that, and I want to make sure it ends up in my A series slot so I can put more time into it. So I suppose that's all, really. That's everything you need to know about the vote. Go and vote. Apologies for if you voted for something that's way down the list and you hated everything at the top, but I'm going to have to be democratic about this, and your time may yet still come. This is not the only other NLP series that will ever come to be made, or at least it probably will be. I'm not going to make any guarantees about apocalyptic events happening, it's hard to say. So thank you very much for watching this very high quality video. Cast your vote, and I'll see you one day for the beginning of a new series about people shooting each other, in general terms.
Amazing. So guys, remember to like, comment and subscribe. Ha 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 ha.